As of the fall of 2010, we have 12 operating power plants, geothermal power plants in Nevada, with current installed capacity of 433 megawatts. An additional 1,200 megawatts will be coming online in the next 5 to 7 years. Now this is the real meat of it here. Developmental geothermal resource in Nevada is estimated at between 3,400 and 4,800 megawatts. Okay? That means by the year 2025, 35 to 50% of the power usage in Nevada will come from geothermal power. This will make it, again, the geothermal power capital of the United States. Currently, the largest geothermal facility in the Great Basin, it's not actually in Nevada, is the COSO plant, which produces about 300 megawatts, or has a capacity of 300 megawatts. It's producing actually less than that, about 200 right now. And the largest facility in Nevada is the Steamboat Complex just south of the town of Reno, which averages about 100 megawatts of power per year. So what do we need to make a geothermal resource viable, economic? Okay, first of all, you either need a large heat source, something that's robust, that's not going to deteriorate over a short period of time. It takes about 5 to 7 years to develop a geothermal facility, and it takes another 5 to 7 years to pay back the capital. So you can't have something that runs out of heat in a short amount of time. So you need a robust heat source, could be either magmatic or extensional. You need a permeable reservoir. In other words, you need to have fluids that are flowing. If you don't have that, you can't extract the heat from the rocks. So the fluids are the mechanism for doing that. So you need a supply of water. There are some systems that we call hot, dry rocks that have plenty of heat, but they have, because of low permeability or low fluid amounts, you don't get any power out of it. And then you need a way to constrain so those rocks or those fluids are not dispersed over a wide area. You need to constrain them, so you need an impermeable cap rock. And then you also need a way to recharge the system. So here is a little simplified diagram here. I'll try to walk you through this. Okay, so what we've got here, here's again depth or pressure going down, temperature across the x-axis. We have fluids that come down in the recharge zone here. Here's your heat source at the bottom. In this case, it's magmatic. Here's our permeable reservoir. They get heated. And then here's a structure here, a fault that allows the buoyant hot fluids to rise back up. And so here is where you would be exploiting the fluids for a geothermal power plant. And this is kind of a more stylized version of that diagram here. So here's our recharge zone. This would be where we would place our injection wells. So the fluids come back down, they get heated in the reservoir, and then our production wells here where they come back up, which go into the plant, and then they cycle back over. Once they're used, they go back down to get heated again. So we try to keep a closed loop going. What are the types of geothermal systems? One is vapor dominated. These are the real gems. They provide the most power for the volume of fluid. Unfortunately, these are extremely rare. Okay, geysers in California, Laudarello in Italy. And so what we have here with a steam system, the vapor comes up, goes into a turbine, turns a shaft for a generator, produces electricity, it's condensed, and then it's re-injected back into the well. The problem is that a lot of that condensation, about 50 to 75% of the fluid goes off in the atmosphere during the condensation process. So oftentimes you need to bring in additional fluids to get heated, to go to the steam and go back up again. The mainstay of the industry are liquid-dominated systems. These are what we call the flash systems. Temperatures are about 200 degrees C. Here the fluid comes up. With reduction pressure, it separates into a brine phase and a steam phase. And then the steam phase goes into the turbine, spins a generator. The brine is separated, re-injected back into the ground, and then we produce electricity that way. And then we have a growing part right now is the moderate temperature systems. These are fluids that are around 100 to 180 degrees C. They're providing an increasing proportion of power. These are what we call the binary systems. Binary systems work, the geothermal fluid comes up. Rather than going, they're not hot enough to really go through a flash process. Instead, they go to a heat exchanger where they heat a secondary or motive fluid, which is isopentane or butane. And then that goes through the process and turns generator. Okay, so let me quickly get to the program need. Data from the Geothermal Energy Association indicates about 1.7 operations job per megawatt of power produced. So in Nevada, we have 433 megawatts currently, and 21 to 3,600 in development. The current demand then is about 736 jobs. Future demand. Well, if we average that 2,100 to 3,600, we look at almost 5,000 jobs that can be provided by the geothermal energy industry. And we've responded to this by developing a renewable energy program, which we call in particular our geothermal technician program. We're one of 2 in the world that are now doing this. So the idea is to train plant operators not only for Nevada, but for the world. And we're looking at either a 2-year AAS degree or a 1-year certificate of achievement. Jim Nichols wrote a grant for the U.S. Department of Energy was received for $500,000 to implement this program. We have an advisory committee that provided guidance, and we now have hired subject matter experts who are developing the course curriculum. And we've written course outlines and desired outcomes for the students. So some of the courses here that are developed: Introduction to AC Controls, Electric Motors, Introduction to Instrumentation, Fundamentals of Electricity, Fluid Mechanics, Hydraulics, Hydrology, Geothermal Energy Resources, Plan Reading and Specifications, Well Design and Construction. The asterisk ones are those that are particular to the geothermal program. Some of the other ones are for the other. We also have programs in solar, wind, and energy efficiency. So quickly, some of the challenges that we need to be aware of. Some of the magmatically systems have high H2S or SO2. This leads to acidity, which can be very corrosive to piping and valves. Other systems have high amounts of dissolved silica or calcium carbonate. This can lead to clogging of the valves. And so what chemists can do here, they have developed inhibitors that are added to the wells to reduce the clogging, which we can see in this situation here, which greatly reduces flow. That's silica precipitate there. Some systems have very high TDS, which also can be corrosive and lead to scaling. And so our plant operators need to be aware of this. So we also have international activities, the U.S. State Department and United States Agency for International Development. We've hosted 4 engineers from the African Rift countries, Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Kenya last fall. And we're in the process of developing an international curriculum so that we'll have like a 1-month training program for international people. And then we have, we're in the process of developing a laboratory for our geothermal, which would address these particular components. And here is a well from 24-5 Upper Steamboat, and I'm out of time, so I can't talk about it. So thank you very much.